Welcome to Ask Dalya Live with me, Dalya Massachi. Get your grant-related questions answered here every second and fourth Wednesday of the month at noon Pacific Time. In each session of Ask Dalya Live, I answer grant-related questions that people like you have asked me. If you would like to ask a question today, please enter it in the comment box. If you'd rather just listen in, great. Of course, if you miss a session of Ask Dalya Live or want to watch again, look for the recordings on the Writing for Community Success page on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, or YouTube, all linked below. You may already know that I've been a nonprofit grant writer for almost 25 years. I also am pleased to work with emerging grant writers as their coach. Check out my popular on-demand course track co-created with TechSoup called Grant Writing and Management. It's your starter kit for grant success, full of the guidance and tools you'll need as a grant seeker. I recently presented a free introductory webinar on the course track. All of those links appear in this video's description. FYI, I am offering a 20% discount on the courses, expiring at midnight on June 30th, 2021. You'll find that discount below also. I've learned my share of lessons in the grant world, and now I want to share that knowledge with you. So let's see what questions came in. Question number 1. I want to start a nonprofit for suicide prevention. My brother took his own life in 1990. I want to help others with regard to prevention, education, and resources. How can I get started? First, I'm sorry to hear about your brother, but I am pleased to hear that you are inspired to help others in similar circumstances. I would recommend looking into the resources provided by the Foundation Center, now called Candid, and they have a lot of resources on starting a nonprofit. Check out the knowledge base on their website at www.candid.org. There are also some good Facebook groups on nonprofits that I would recommend you look into, especially those for people who are new to the nonprofit field. If you want to prepare for seeking grants for your work, I would recommend watching my free webinar that's linked in the description below. It's called How to Use the Summer to Prepare Your Organization for Grant Seeking. Question number 2. Do you have any advice on how I could best read a grant maker's request for proposals? As a matter of fact, I do have lots of advice for you. Let's talk about those funding opportunities that come across the desks of grant writers. Released a few months or weeks before the deadlines, they're usually called requests for proposals or RFPs. An alternate term is funding guidelines. You will have to assess each RFP to see if and when you should pursue it. Remember, you're trying to fund the high-priority current and future programs at your organization. You're not trying to chase after money that's only tangentially related or sends you somewhere off course. Okay, just so you know, when an RFP says it gives priority to any item, that means that most, if not all, the grant awards will fulfill those criteria. So if you don't fall into that category, you have a much lower chance of getting that grant. I recommend keeping funders like that on your radar, but not in the top tier of your funding prospects. On the other hand, if you do fall into the funder's priority category, great. That means that grantor should be a high priority for you. Also, be sure to review the RFP's list of exceptions before going forward. You don't want to waste time and effort if you don't even qualify. Many RFPs state a text limit or a number of pages, might be number of characters if it's an online application. This will set your expectations of what you're going to have to write, so that's very helpful to you. Also included will be a list of exactly what they want to see in your application. Consider it like a checklist and make sure you cover it all to the best of your ability. Don't forget to note the deadline and if there's a specific time on that day that the application is due. It could be online, it could be in postal mail, it could be delivered to their offices, whatever it is, make sure you're very clear about that deadline. Now, speaking of time, the RFP might tell you how often you will have the opportunity to apply. For example, an RFP might only come out once a year at a certain time, and the award might be made at a certain time in the year, or a certain month, certain week, whenever it is. You'll also find out the grant period. It's usually 1 year, but it may be longer. It might be 18 months or 2 years, maybe even more. So you have to be very clear about that grant period, and you can use that time frame to lay out your proposed work within that specific time frame. Of course, RFPs will include the financial information the funder requires, such as proposed budgets, financial statements from previous years, and the like. That list is likely to be part of a larger list of proposal attachments that the funder requires or recommends. And finally, the RFP will probably give you a dollar amount to request, or at least a range of grant amounts that they are offering. You can expect to read through an RFP a few times to make sure you have addressed everything. I usually use yellow highlighting to make sure I'm remembering the most important or crucial information. At that point, be sure to alert your other grant team members of any missing pieces that you're going to need in the application. That might include special attachments or forms, or if you need updated program information that you don't yet have. All of that is stuff you're going to need, and tell folks when you're going to need it so you can make sure you meet the deadline. Before you submit your application, go back to the RFP and check and double check that you provide everything they want in the precise sequence and format that they request. Sometimes they're very picky about that. In my grant writing and management course series, I actually walk you through each individual part of a sample RFP. Question number 3. In your grant writing and management course track, can I take only the introductory first course called 101, or do I have to take all 5 courses? Good question. Thank you for asking. The only course in the track that's available to take as a standalone course is 101. It'll give you a taste of what the series is like and will introduce you to the grant roadmap, which we use to guide us through all 5 courses. Now, I personally think that the entire track of 5 courses is best taken together because each course builds on the others and leads you through the entire grant-seeking process. You'll end up with all the tools you need to get started on your own grant journey. And if you've been in the field a bit, you're bound to gain new insights from revisiting the basics. I also know that executives, managers, and even board members can gain important perspective on the grant world from the courses. That wraps up today's session of Ask Dalya Live. Thanks for joining me. I'm here every second and fourth Wednesday of the month at noon Pacific time. Be sure to stop by again and tell your friends and colleagues. Recordings are available on this Writing for Community Success Facebook page under Videos and on my website www.writingtomakeadifference.com. If you have a question for a future session of Ask Dalya Live, just use the form in the link below. Please follow me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, or Google Business, and visit my website to sign up for my free newsletter for more tips. The links all appear below. I look forward to hearing about your successes and answering more of your questions during the next session of Ask Dalya Live on Wednesday, July 14th. See you there!